Alexander Ovechkin is your new all-time leading goal scorer in the NHL. Let's talk about it. So this last Sunday, in a game against the New York Islanders, Alexander Ovechkin, one game after tying Wayne Gretsky at 894 career goals for the all-time record, cemented himself as the lone goal-scoring king atop the NHL history books by scoring his 895th goal in the second period against the Islanders. These are the kind of things in sports that I love. He scores the goal in the second period. They're on the road in New York, and the game stops. For about 30 to 35 minutes, they do this great presentation. They had a video prepared with teammates, other athletes. His mother spoke in the video. His mother was at the game with him, as was his wife and his children. His mother spoke in the video. And this was all put on by the Islanders. They rolled out the blue carpet for Ovechkin. They had a hand in the presentation. Their fans were great in that moment, chanting Ovi, Ovi, Ovi over and over again. And granted, there were likely a large number of Capitals fans in attendance, but I found myself getting a little bit choked up by this whole presentation. And I want to, before I proceed with talking about Ovechkin, I want to give a shout out to the Islanders fans and the Islanders organization that you handled that with class. And it was a great day for Islanders fans because winning the game was important to their playoff chances. Washington's already in. They're going to be the top team in the Eastern Conference. The Islanders needed the win. They got the win, and they got to see history. So I want to give a quick props to the Islanders organization. You handled that moment beautifully with so much class, and I appreciate that. Wayne Gretsky and his wife were in attendance. He said a few words after Ovechkin got the goal to pass him on a record that we thought was never going to be broken. Many people thought that Wayne Gretzky's record of goals was never going to be broken, and here we are on April 8th as we're recording this, talking about the NHL's new all-time leading scorer. Ironically, I should say the NHL, talking about the NHL's new all-time leading goal scorer. Ironically, just a couple of years removed from the NBA crowning a new all-time leading scorer, when many thought that record would never be broken. But the thing about records that people think are never going to be broken, when they are, it just makes it all the more likely that those records will never be broken. LeBron James and Alexander Ovechkin broke the unbreakable records, and LeBron James broke it a couple years ago, and he's still playing. How unbreakable is that record going to be now? But back to Ovechkin. And I'm not going to go into who I think the greatest overall player of all time is now, because this video is about Alexander Ovechkin. So I want to give him his credit and talk about all the stats he's had in a ridiculous 20-year career for the Washington Capitals, which makes it all the more special because unlike Wayne Gretsky and Mark Messier and some of the other all-time great goal scorers in this league, Alexander Ovechkin has played all 1,487 games with the Washington Capitals. And an interesting statistic about the game where he scored the record-breaking goal. It was 21 years to the day that the Washington Capitals won the 2004 draft lottery, which afforded them the first pick that they used to draft Alexander Ovechkin. So a beautiful piece of poetry. That's why I love sports. But back to his statistics. Another funny coincidence. Ovechkin tied Gretzky at 894 goals in game number 1,486. Wayne Gretsky scored 894 goals in 1,487 games. So Ovechkin reached that mark in one fewer game than Gretzky did. And just to cap that off, Ovechkin broke Gretzky's record the very next game in game number 1487. So another really nice piece of symmetry for Ovechkin in this moment, and Gretzky for that matter. I got particularly choked up when Gretzky mentioned that when he broke Gordie Howe's record, Gordie Howe's wife had a present for his wife. And so, by the same token, Wayne Gretzky's wife had a gift for Alexander Ovechkin's wife. We didn't see what the gift was, but it was a very special moment. Gretzky's wife was emotional. Ovechkin's wife was emotional. The whole thing was just so well done. I love hockey, but I've never had like a rooting interest. I've never had a passion for a team like I do in other sports, because I came into hockey relatively recently in the last 10 years or so, and I don't really have a team. But I have a deep appreciation for the sport as I've learned it in the last 10 years, and this just made me love it even more. And I think I have a deep respect for the Capitals now. I told somebody the other day, I think I will just be an overall NHL fan until I'm able to go to an NHL game, which is something that I really wanted to do. Was hoping to do it this summer. The timing's not going to work out before the end of the season here in a couple days. But it's, for those of you that have been listening to the podcast for a couple of years, you know that it's one of my goals to go to the stadiums of all 30 Major League Baseball teams. And I've been to a few of them now. Still have a long way to go. But whenever I return from these trips and seeing these teams in person, I feel a connection to that team because I've been there, because I've been to the city, because I've seen this, because I've experienced the city, the food, the attractions, the stadium, the team, the fans. And so I think it's going to be whenever and whoever I'm afforded the opportunity to see an NHL game in person, that's when I'll feel a connection to a team the way that I do each time I go to a stadium in baseball. But as just a general hockey fan, this was a great moment. It was so much fun to watch. I've always liked Ovechkin. I was more of a Crosby fan during their prime, but I always liked Ovechkin. He seemed like a fun guy, so I think this was the guy who deserved it. I knew that he was going to break the record against New York. I thought he was going to break it against Chicago, because what you noticed in the two games was that they were kind of giving him the Kobe Bryant treatment, the way that the Lakers treated Kobe Bryant in his final game, where they weren't expecting to win. The season was wrapping up. They knew it was his final game, so they passed the ball to him every time. He took 50 shots. I saw a little bit of that with the Capitals, where pretty much every time they were in the scoring zone, they passed to Ovechkin. And he did have a couple opportunities against Chicago after he tied the record. There was one where the goalie had to have it hit off his shoulder to avoid it going in, and the crowd was booing him. And I joked with my dad later that night. I said, hey, if I'm that goalie, nobody wants to be attached to a moment forever on the wrong end of things. But Chicago didn't need that game. They were already eliminated from the playoffs. Washington was already ahead in that game. Maybe if I'm that goalie, I don't go all out to stop that puck, because at least I could be. I don't let it go in. We saw at the end of the Chicago game that Alexander Ovechkin did not want to be on the ice during the empty net situation, because he didn't want it to be that way. He didn't want to get it that way. So I wouldn't let him do it, because the competitor in all of us says, oh, you're not going to get it on me. But at the same time, you kind of want to be there for that moment. And what I enjoyed about the moment when it did happen against the Islanders is that Ilya Sorokin, the Islanders goalie that gave up the all-time goal, is a fellow Russian. So Sorokin and Ovechkin have undoubtedly played together before on national team stages. And he had a moment in his speech where he thanked Sorokin for giving him the goal and said, I love you, brother. So that there's obviously a connection between those two. But going past the moment, I just want to recognize the greatness of Ovechkin's career Obviously, he now has the record for most goals all time, but I want to go over some of his other records because he's got a lot of them. Most power play goals, most overtime goals, most game-winning goals, most 50-goal seasons with 9, most goals in away games, most empty net goals, and most unique goalies scored upon. And I don't have that number, but what I find funny about that is he had never scored on Sorokin before 895. The record-setting goal was his first goal against fellow countryman Ilya Sorokin, so it's only fitting that last goal added one more tally to what was already a record. And finally, and most obviously, because he's played every single one of his games with the Washington Capitals, most goals with one team in NHL history. So one more time, I want to say congratulations to Alexander Ovechkin and the Washington Capitals organization. Congratulations to Wayne Gretsky for holding on to that record for as long as you did. You will probably hold on to the all-time points record forever because that one is truly unbreakable, in my opinion. And congratulations to the National Hockey League for taking center stage for just a moment on a Sunday afternoon to celebrate the new all-time goal-scoring leader in Alexander Ovechkin. Let me know in the comments, are you an Ovechkin fan? Did you see the moment? What did you think about it? Will anyone ever get 896? And mind you, the season is not over for Washington. They have about 5 games left, so he could add a couple more goals to that. If he can score a goal a game for the final 5, he could be like LeBron James, being the first and only member of the 40,000-point club. Ovechkin could be the first and only member of the 900-goal club. I firmly believe that now that he's got the record, and they are the 1 seed in the Eastern Conference, that this will be Ovechkin's final season. It would be nice if he capped it off with his second Stanley Cup title, but whether he does or not, I do believe this will be it for Alexander Ovechkin. I definitely felt the pressure from him, like wanting to get it done. He was mic'd up during that game, and he even told teammates, hey, pass it to me every chance you get. He wanted it, not, trust me, and it wasn't for selfish reasons. Like this, I think what we don't understand as sports fans a lot of the time is that, yeah, the records themselves are really nice and they're really an honor, but the pressure of getting to them wears on these people. Like we heard it a lot with Aaron Judge when he was chasing the AL record for home runs in a season that he ultimately got, that he got up towards 60 and 61, and he started pressing and swinging at everything and just wanting the pressure to be off. And so that's what I feel like Ovechkin was feeling a little bit. And if you've ever seen the movie 61, which I highly recommend, it's one of my favorite sports movies, even though not as many people have seen it. It was directed by Billy Crystal, who's a huge Yankee fan. It was about the chase for Babe Ruth's record in 1961 by Roger Maris. When he hit 61, it was Maris's record that Aaron Judge broke in the American League. It's been broken in the National League, but it was Maris's AL record that Aaron Judge broke. In that movie, you get a glimpse of the pressure that Roger Maris was feeling. He was losing his hair. He was being taunted by opposing fans. He was being taunted by his own fans that didn't consider him a true Yankee because he had come from the Royals, and Babe Ruth was a true Yankee. And he was already a heavy smoker, but he was smoking a lot more during that chase. The stress took its toll on Roger Maris. So I think we saw a little bit of that with Ovi. He handled it beautifully, as did Judge when it was his turn. Handled it beautifully, and I think he's relieved. I don't think he'll get 5 goals in 5 games to make it 900, but if he could, that'd be pretty awesome. And I do think, championship or not, this will be his last run because he finally got that record. But it would be nice. As an NHL fan without a rooting interest, I'm rooting for the Capitals to win it all and cap off Ovechkin's career with a title. Again, let me know in the comments, did you see the moment? What'd you think? Do you think Ovechkin is the greatest of all time? Or do you still think it's Gretzky because of the points record? Let me know in the comments. Until next time, I'm Roman Gennaro. This is Empire Sports Talk, and I'll see you on the next one.